Rev up your engines!
Scotty, what do you think about Mazda? Okay, well, it's funny. I was just talking to a guy this morning about Mazda. It's one of the few companies that's actually going a little bit better as time goes on. They used to have relationships with Ford where they had a lot of problems. Now they got a relationship with Toyota. And the Mazdas are actually getting better. It's interesting because Hondas have been going down a little bit lately, but the Mazdas are actually going up. Their engineers are making better engines, better transmissions, and it seems to be a pretty good company because don't have the name of Toyota, so they have to try harder. You know, somebody's got a name like Harley Davidson. Okay, they can name Harley Davidson. Unfortunately, Harley's been selling motorcycles under that name for years. The quality's down the toilet now. They were great motorcycles decades ago, but now their quality's like, but they got a name and people keep buying them. So, I mean, that's another story. But Mazda, actually, they are getting better as time goes on. They're an up-and-coming company for sure. Rutger Turner says, what do you think of the 2018 Mustang EcoBoost? Not much. It's got a four-cylinder engine, turbocharged, puts out 345 horsepower, some crazy thing, right? They don't hold up over time. I've had people buy them. The engines will blow at 65,000. They have problems with the fuel injection system. Mustangs were made for V8 engines. You put a four-cylinder turbo, you can get horsepower, but they don't last. They also don't drive the same. They don't sound the same. To me, the Mustang EcoBoost is as dumb of an idea as Harley Davidson making those electric motorcycles. They're live wire, which is a massive failure. I mean, the last quarter they sold, I don't know, 80 of them worldwide or something. Nobody wants the things, right? An EcoBoost, big mistake. The main reason they made them was to sell them in Europe. They didn't sell Mustangs in Europe before, but if they put a four-cylinder engine in, then they can sell them. If they put a V8 engine in them, one, they wouldn't meet some of the anti-pollution stuff, but two, tax the big engines in Europe, or a cylinder engine has less tax. That's one of the reasons we have screaming 600cc motorcycles. In Europe, if you had a 1200cc motorcycle, you paid through the nose for taxes and penalties. That's why they let them. Japanese made little 600cc ones that scream, because the Europeans wanted fast bikes, but they had to get one that fit in their structure, how they taxed them for money. So they made a bunch of really fast 600cc motorcycles, and they sold the heck out of them. Anwar says, Scott, I'm planning to buy an Avalon. The price is $5,000 with 104,000 miles. What do you think? Okay, now they're really well-made cars. $5,000 isn't much for cars these days, and 104,000 miles. They should still have a lot of life in it. But there's two things you have to check on that vehicle. One is the power steering rack leaking? Because if it is, you have to knock off $1,800 off the price. And number two, see if the cams are leaking oil. Or if you don't understand how to check that, pay a mechanic to check it out before you buy it. The cams on those often would leak oil and lead to big engine problems. Have that checked. If they're okay, yeah, it could be a really good car. But you got to get it checked out by a mechanic first. It's that old, 18. Who knows? It's been wrecked, flooded, stolen, had problems. Who knows? But if they say it's okay, it could be a good car. Sharon Jane says, I'd rather be working on my car than to be at work. I kind of agree with you. That's why I was a mechanic, because I like working with my hands, and I ran my own business most of the time. I work by myself with my hands, and I'm happy. It's been proven by scientists that people that work with their hands and their mind, you're going to fix modern cars. You got to have a brain, too, because it's all complex computer stuff, too. So if you combine your brain work with your mind work, you stay healthier, you live longer, you're happier, right? If you're working in an office somewhere, I don't blame you. I'd rather be working on a car than sitting there in some cubicle or being bored out of my mind, listening to office gossip or something, you know? You find something you like, go towards it. Don't get fooled by this, I'm going to make $5 million fast, then I'll get out of the rat race. It doesn't work that way. Find something you like doing that you enjoy and keep doing it. That's what I've done my whole life. Kadrogo says, Scotty, what do you think of a new Kia Hyundai 2.5 engine? Not much. I don't like Hyundai and Kia. They're kind of like octopus tentacles. They own part of each other. They're basically almost the same company, right? They have had so many engine and transmission problems over the history, I would never buy one. Now, you might get lucky and buy one that goes 100,000, relatively trouble-free miles. Fine and dandy. It's your money. You can do whatever you want. But I'd rather buy a Toyota or a Honda that I make it 300, 400, 500,000 miles out of than buy a Kia that you know when it gets 100-something thousand miles, it'll start burning oil or the transmission will go out. They don't have the quality. They just don't. Dwyer Auto says, a friend of mine just got a 2017 Dodge Charger 3.6 as a first car. Came one of those scam chip tuners. Could that cause long-term damage? Well, of course it could. Now, see, the thing is, he bought a Charger, but he got the one with the V6 engines, right? They still put out 300-something horsepower. They're no wimps, right? But most guys that want speed get a Charger with a Hemi V8. That's the way to go. You put those tuners, they're almost always called damage in the long run. They make them go faster by doing things like advanced timing, change the fuel injection mapping and stuff, and you can easily have a car that runs too rich or too lean or has too far advanced ignition, and it will eventually wear the engine out a lot faster than just keeping it stock. I don't ever advise people to do something like that. Now, on the other hand, I mean, if you know somebody who's a race mechanic or race engineer, yeah, they know how to program things and they can do what you want. Say, okay, I want speed at high end or low end. I want better gas mods, and they can program it for what you want, right? But it takes a genius to do that. You get one of these generic tunes and have somebody put it in, who knows? You'd need a dynamometer, a 5-gas analyzer, and a lot of computer knowledge of how to set it up correctly. Somebody says, an electric car with a generator. What would be wrong with that? A lot of people say, well, you got an electric car. Why don't you just put a generator, run off the wheels, so it would charge the battery up when you go down the road? It doesn't work that way. All machines have a level of inefficiency to them. So the motor is somewhat inefficient. Let's say if you put 2 horsepower in. Well, by the time you charged up the battery and then that battery ran the electric motors, that 2 horsepower might only be 1.3 horsepower. So you just lost 0.7 of a horsepower. You're actually losing energy. What would happen is the batteries in your car would just run out faster because you're losing energy. It's just the way that it goes. You can't get something from nothing. So you can't have a car that generates its electricity. I met a guy, some crazy Canadian guy, and he kept trying to tell me, oh, I beat the laws of physics. We do subatomic particles, and I got this machine that the alternator will charge the car, and it doesn't take any energy. Baloney. It's a bunch of nonsense. It's not real. You're always going to put in more energy than you get out with any mechanical system that's out there. That's just how it is. So you can't put generators on an electric car to make itself run. It'd be a perpetual motion machine, and there's no such thing. Michael Fraser Jr. says, should I crank my truck once a week if it sits for months at a time? Here's the thing. If you just crank it and stop it, that's not good for the vehicle either. You want to drive it, and you want to drive it at least half an hour once a week. You don't want it just sitting there. They're not made for sitting. The electronics go haywire. The fuel will go bad. Modern fuel is 10% ethanol and a bunch of other things. And if you don't drive it and that fuel sits in there and you hardly drive it at all and that fuel's been in there for 6 9 months, it'll go bad, start gumming and clog everything up. Cars weren't made for sitting. They just weren't. Now, on the other hand, you're going to be like that, you might get yourself an electric car. They don't care. They don't have fuel, right? Haji says, what's better for an automatic transmission, leaving it in park or neutral with the parking brake? Leaving it neutral is the easiest thing. You put it in park, you got the parking prawl in, you get a little strain if you're on a hill or something. It's better to have the brake on and have it in neutral if it's just sitting there, right? Now, of course, if you're going to leave the car, no, you want to have it in park so it doesn't roll, right? But here's a good thing that I tell people that don't understand. If you're parking in San Francisco, say on that giant hill that goes right up, right? What you'd want to do would be you'd stop the car in drive with your foot on the brake. You would pull on the emergency brake. Then you would put it in park. So most of the strain is on the brakes and not on the transmission in park. If you're on a hill and you're worried, that's what you do first. You come to a stop with the engine still running, the car's not moving, foot on the brake, leave it in drive, pull on the emergency brake, then put it in park and turn it off, and that'll strain it less, and you won't have any problems. Barack says, Scotty, what are your thoughts on Mercedes backtracking on their goals to be fully electric by 2030? The CEO admitted they'll make internal combustion cars well into the 2030s, and that all EVs might take longer than expected. The Germans are anything that's logical, and they're business people. So they're understanding people don't want this crap. If you make it, people don't buy it. Guess what? You're going to lose a small fortune. And these are business people. People don't buy them, they'll go out of business. Time is not right for that technology. Most things that succeed are an improvement. Cars were an improvement over horses, right? Electric vehicles are actually a step down from the convenience of long-distance transportation from gasoline cars. They're a bigger hassle. There's no infrastructure for them. They cost too much money. They're not going to just slide right into the slipstream and make money and sell. People aren't buying them. Keep making regular cars. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.